The action of today's manhwa begins in the Arcana continent in the castle of the Demon King. This place is terribly gloomy, and some monsters are flying around the castle. A couple of moments after this, we see in front of us the ruler of these lands, Belphegor Perseus. He listens carefully to the next news that his servants tell him. Next, we observe the servant of this demon lord himself, who reports to his lord that the news he brought happened in the city of Burnhead, which is located in the Rust Bowl region. But after a couple of moments, the blonde servant is interrupted from his denunciation, and these two are distracted by something that interrupts them. This something shouts to these two about some incomprehensible danger. Next, the frame moves to the very creature that interrupts the denunciation of the first servant to the demon lord. In front of us is a small creature that resembles an octopus. The danger is that their lands have been penetrated. But as soon as this little octopus purple-colored one appeared in the throne room, everyone looked at him like a real victim. Then they asked him if he was tired of living, that he declared himself like that. The blonde, who is one of the servants, bears the title of number 4 in the world of demons. His name is River Taluk. He warns the other offspring not to be rude in the presence of the king himself. Next, River Taluk asks the smallest purple octopus what happened. The octopus is terribly afraid, as if he went through a new part of the Outlast. He is trying to squeeze out the words. But this little octopus still gathers his strength to inform the entire throne room that human warriors have invaded their lands, or rather the lands of the Demon King. Judging by the reaction of the Demon Lord himself, this news does not particularly frighten him, but on the contrary, judging by his face, he is completely indifferent to how long he remains silent after hearing it. Next, we observe the reaction of the 4th number in the world of demons. Judging by his look, he clearly did not appreciate the news. He looked at the octopus and told him that he was probably already delirious in reality. The octopus continues to be very afraid of all the demons in front of him, but he continues to stand his ground, saying that the human warriors he is talking about have indeed invaded the demonic domain. After a couple of moments, the Gigachad demon lord himself intervenes in the conversation, breaking the silence and asking the small octopus in front of him what Naraka is even doing now. After this small and frightened purple octopus with a rather strange mustache hears a question from the demon lord himself for a while. He does not answer because he is afraid. But then he understands that he has no other way, which is why he informs his lord that Naraka, about whom the lord asked, fell at the hands of people who invaded the lands. But the octopus didn't stop talking there. He continued saying that not only Naraka fell at the hands of people, because Cain, whom we now see in front of us, also fell at the hands of people. As the demon lord sits on his majestic IKEA throne and continues to listen, the octopus continues to list the names of the demons who died during the human attack. The news from the octopus's mouth does not end there. He reports that all the warriors under the leadership of Narak also died, and right now these people are moving unhindered towards the castle at incredible speed. But even after the majestic demon lord finishes listening to all this seemingly most deplorable news, he continues to remain calm. He silently accepts all the information. But not even a second passes before the desire to kill flares up in the eyes of this ruler, and he reports that a lot of time has passed since the last time humans invaded his lands. A couple of moments after uttering the remark, he reached for the mystical magic ball and named the heroes who invaded his lands, the brave souls who managed to interest him. He was drawn to the strange mystical ball for a reason. Thanks to it, he could magically look at the faces of these daredevils without getting up from the throne. Looking at them, he held his breath. Immediately after the demon lord saw them, he stood up from his throne and grinned, because people were and remain just pathetic insects who pose no threat to him. Then the 4th number of the demonic version again intervenes in the conversation. He tells the poor little octopus to immediately take him to these brave warriors who invaded the lands. This blonde servant of the demon lord continued saying that he intends to personally deal with all these pathetic people who dared to encroach on their lands as quickly as possible. But after a couple of moments, this guy is interrupted by the demonic lord himself, who, turning his attention to himself, asks him if he is some kind of joke for him or what. He is clearly dissatisfied with him. Such a sharp and rather sudden reaction of Perseus made the 4th number and the purple octopus grandfather very surprised. They were so surprised that they froze in their places. However, after the two looked up at their lord, Perseus did not say anything. Instead, he silently stood up and headed somewhere. He was asked where he was going. A couple of moments later, the demonic lord looked at his blonde servant and, charging a powerful charge, warned him that he would kill him with his own hands if he dared to interfere and kill them. While these two continued to stand in shock at the very strange behavior from the demonic lord, the lord himself at that moment, as if nothing had happened, left the throne room with the help of his demonic teleport. But Perseus left the throne room not completely without a trace. He left a note on which an arrow was drawn and an inscription so that his servants would definitely attach this to the gate of the demonic castle. After the fourth number approached the place where his demonic lord had disappeared, he bent down to pick up 2 pieces of paper. After reading their contents, he was very surprised. While this blonde servant was surprised by the content he saw in the records, the course of events is transferred to the boundaries of the demonic castle, and we observe the very group of people standing in front of him. Next, we observe this ingenious note on which it is written that the Demon King is currently absent, and below is written a request for the heroes to come another time. Next, we again watch a squad of heroes who stop stunned near this ingenious note. After what they see, they have nothing left but to wonder what the hell this is. After the frame goes a little lower, we watch the same purple octopus and the 4th demon, and they are defeated, and the blonde understands that this girl herself is the daughter of the king. A couple of moments after this moment, we are transported to an indefinite time in the past, when one day a question arose in the head of the Demon King that haunted him for some time. Next, we watch as some peasant fights off the demon with the help of his pickaxe. He shouts to this demon that he will not allow him to harm his child at any cost. We continue to watch as the monsters continue to attack ordinary civilians. We again see a scene of a mother hugging her child and promising him that she will definitely protect him. These terrible pictures continue. This time we watch a close-up of a man with a beard who tires the monsters so that they do not touch his child. At this moment, a monster is visible in the reflection of his eyes. At this point, we are transported back to the demonic lord. At this moment, he turns to his servant named Luke to ask a question, because he has something very interesting. As one would expect, his faithful servant bows to his demonic lord and informs him that he is fully attentive to answer the question that is bothering his master. The question to the ruler begins. He declares that usually all living beings on this planet put only their own lives above all else. We see a clear example in front of us. The demon is sure that he is a Sigma. But as soon as the demonic lord remembers how ordinary people did everything to protect their children, he wonders why people sometimes act contrary to this. He asks why they do this. Servant Luke, having heard a rather detailed question from his demonic overlord, also thinks, apparently this is also incomprehensible to him, just like for his overlord. After a couple of moments, his servant Luke still answers that he does not think that they need to find out the intentions of lower beings. But the demon lord is not satisfied with this answer. He tells the servant to think more broadly. In order to give his servant additional motivation to include more convolutions of his brain in the process, he tells him that if they can understand their behavior, it will be easier to control them. With this remark, in order to increase motivation, the servant Luke apparently was highly motivated, because upon hearing this proposal from his master, he immediately began to glow. After servant Luke heard such a brilliant question with a brilliant purpose from his demonic lord, he called it simply the best. But in fact, the lord was simply interested in knowing the answer. The course of events is interrupted and we are transported forward for some time. After the course of events continues again, we watch as the servant Luke loudly opens the doors in front of him. Judging by his face, he is very enthusiastic. He informs His Majesty that he has done research in order to better know the people according to his question and how best they should use them. But when Luke sees his lord in front of him, he is speechless, because the demonic lord in front of him right now is holding a small baby in his arms who is sobbing loudly, and there is a crib next to him. A couple of moments after Luke sees this strange creature in the hands of his master, he decides to directly ask him what kind of strange creature is in his hands right now. Our main character, with an awkward smile on his face, clears to his servant that he picked up this little girl in the capital of these pathetic people. The little girl in the arms of the Lord continues to cry. A couple of moments later, the demon lord tells his servant Luke that this girl is crying all the time. He asks him if he knows how to stop it. Luke declares that he will deal with this problem. Judging by the face of the demonic lord at this moment, he wants the fastest and most effective solution to the problem from his servant Luke. He shouts to him to act much faster. Despite the fact that poor Luke, who meets a human cub for the first time, does not understand what he is dealing with under the pressure of his master, he shouts to him that he will do everything as he orders. A couple of moments after this, Luke thrusts his hand forward and begins to create a projectile of magical blue hellfire. The Dark Lord, who is standing behind, clearly does not like this decision. Fortunately, the Demon Lord has reflex speed, just like Goku from Dragon Ball, which is why a second later we watch as the Dark Lord slams his servant Luke right into the wall with a quick blow. The Lord asks his servant what he is doing. In his defense, Luke replies that, as he knows, all the little people instantly fall silent after being burned with the help of hellish blue flame. After poor Luke breaks down once again, the Dark Lord calls him an idiot and tells him to just go and find out the reason for the crying of this little girl he took. Immediately after this, we watch Luke diligently delve into books in order to find a way to deal with this problem. All this is accompanied by the piercing gaze of the Dark Lord. After Luke realizes that his master is very impatient at the moment, he speeds up the pace of searching for books, and we watch as various books scatter to different sides of the room. But after a couple of moments, Luke still manages to find a book with the title, Everything a Good Father Needs to Know. Luke immediately understands that in this situation, he simply could not find a book better than this. Immediately after the faithful blonde servant of the demonic lord finds this book, they begin a detailed study of this manual in order to find a way to calm the child from crying. After a couple of pages of searching, they come across a page where it is written about the main reasons for crying. The reasons include the fact that the child may not have had his diaper changed for a long time, hunger, fatigue, and abdominal pain. The problem may also lie in the desire to view a new series of skibidi toilets. A couple of moments after this, the demonic lord orders his servant to go through this entire list. That is why the demonic lord and his servant go through the procedure of checking the diapers, because this can also be the reason for crying. But as it turned out, everything is in order with the cleanliness of the diapers. Next, the demonic lord uses a spell that sends all foreign substances to another space and time. Since they started talking about this, they should probably eliminate future problems in advance. Next, these two dubious parents move on to the second possible reason for this girl's crying, which is that she may be hungry, which is why we see a piece of meat in front of us. And to be more specific, we have before us the MSO of the freshest gutted dark monster. Luke proudly declares this to his master. The demonic lord also appreciates this by telling him that he is good. But this meat is so different from the usual one we are used to that it even gives off a dark aura, which is what makes this little baby more and more nervous. There is crying, and the demonic lord, holding the masterpiece in his hands, in his opinion, does not understand what's going on. Luke informs his master that the book says that babies drink exclusively milk. After the demonic lord hears from his servant Luke that the child only needs milk for nutrition, he tells him what in this case he must do. But the demonic lord does not have time to finish before this servant Luke decides that he can very well act as a Sigma mom. They shout to him that this is not what they meant. Marius continues to shout at his servant, telling him that by his request he meant to go on a search to find something similar to a pacifier with milk. Immediately after this, the same pacifier with milk appeared in the hands of Luke's servant. He asked the Lord if this was what he meant. Seeing what he wanted, the Lord confirmed that this was exactly what he was talking about. Despite the mysterious appearance of a pacifier with milk in Luke's hands, the demon lord did not ask this, and instead silently took it, and decided to finally feed the child so that he would finally calm down and become silent. But as soon as this little baby tried this suspicious milk that appeared out of nowhere, this little girl immediately spat out everything she managed to drink from there. Immediately after this, the two decided that the girl was not hungry, so they moved on to the next point, so Luke used his spell once again, but this time to send the target to sleep. After the demon lord's servant cast his spell on the child, it initially began to work, and the child gradually began to fall asleep, according to the plan of these two not very experienced parents. But surprisingly, this child somehow resisted these sleep spells, and then we watched as, despite the sleep spell, this girl continued to be awake as if nothing had happened. Luke was very unhappy that this little girl was able to resist his magic. He called her a pathetic human. In response to this, the Lord asked his servant not to raise his voice at her. The two continued to follow this instruction that they found in the library. They carried out point after point in order to make this little girl finally calm down. Meanwhile, night fell. But moving to the castle, we again watch as this little girl continues to cry inconsolably. Apparently not a single item from the guide for fathers of gigantic children helped these two in any way. Then we watched as the demon lord himself and his equally powerful servant lay exhausted near this powerful crybaby. They were in shock after realizing what it was like to raise a child. The demon lord, meanwhile, had completely lost his patience because he had wasted a whole day to find a way to calm this child down. Placing his hand on his face, he wondered what the hell this child wanted. A couple of moments later, Marius raised his head in puzzlement and heard that this child suddenly calmed down and stopped crying so inconsolably for a while. He was very surprised at this turn. As soon as the demonic lord looked at this baby in the crib, he saw the most satisfied face of the child, who seemed to have never cried like before. The king was completely stunned because he did not understand at all what ultimately led to this baby finally becoming silent. And when it finally happened, it was as unexpected as possible and for no reason. A moment later, we watch as this little girl behaves strangely and has no desire at all to start crying just like any skibidi toilet fan. The dark demon lord has a high intelligence, so he immediately understands what's what and approaches the crib. after which he quickly begins to hide his face with his hands and, on the contrary, show his face. This simple game brings this girl a huge amount of pleasure. Then the Lord takes this little baby into his arms and begins to spin around holding her in his hands. While the demonic lord who stole this girl from the human capital continued to spin her around, he decided to look at her and saw that she was very happy at that moment. But this girl's happiness and energy did not last very long, because literally a moment later, this girl's battery ran out and she passed out right in Perseus's arms. After the Dark Lord realized that this human cub had passed out, he took her down and was clearly disappointed that this girl stopped staying awake so quickly after such efforts. It was at this moment that the powerful demon lord Marius himself became a real full-fledged father of this little girl. At this very moment, judging by his face, he did not mind. At this point, the course of events is interrupted and the location changes to the world of people, or more specifically, a building with a huge clock just like Big Ben in Arizona or something like that. We are transported inside this building. We watch as some girl with short blonde hair, being an employee, is engaged with a whole crowd of small children who are around her. Next, we watch as a mysterious person, no less mysteriously, slowly opens the huge doors to this building, in which the previously described scene takes place. One of the little girls with light blue hair and eyes just like Gojo Satoru suddenly turns back to look at who came into this room. Next, we understand that this girl turns around for the reason that the man who came is her dad, which is why the man with black hair runs to his daughter calling her his princess. Immediately after this girl's father reaches her, he squats down and asks her if she missed him. He receives an obvious answer. The girl understands perfectly well that her daddy has been working all this time. Hearing this, the father of this girl is very surprised after he hears that even the little girl understands the reason why he was not around for so long. But many adults would not have guessed. That is why the father of this smart little girl comes even closer to her and hugs her tightly. Tears of happiness begin to flow from his eyes, and he calls her a real daddy's smart girl. Next, we understand that this seemingly ordinary man is the Demon King himself, who left his kingdom by telling his faithful servant Luke that he was relinquishing all powers of the Demon King. Next, the Demon Lord, under disguise, tells the woman who was watching his daughter that he feels guilty before her every time. He apologizes for the fact that he is so often forced to leave her here. However, this good-natured girl with blonde hair answers the man that with such a kind and obedient daughter as Saren, they are always happy to spend time with her. Saren immediately brags to her father that she was praised. The father continues to be very happy for his daughter. He asks her if she wants him to buy her something tasty. The girl with a joyful expression on her face replies that she wants pasta. The Demon Lord, or just a loving undercover father, reaches out his hand to his little daughter and says that in this case they are heading somewhere together right now. But suddenly something unexpected happens. The girl removes her hand from her father and, standing in front of him, loudly declares to her father that they are not going anywhere. The surprised father asks his daughter the reason. Then this man's daughter asks him if dad forgot what they should have done before leaving this place together. Apparently her father really forgot it. After a couple of moments, the frame moves to a huge cross and a statue of a girl whose head is covered, and there is a halo above her. This is a normal structure, after all. We are in a church. This statue belongs to the goddess of abundance and mercy named Tirsa. Then we watch how the Demon Lord himself, at the request of his daughter, prays to some goddess in the church. Judging by his face, he doesn't like it. We continue to watch how the employee of this temple, Saren, and her father pray to this statue. He is offended because as a Demon Lord, it is not proper for him to worship some kind of deities. However, despite the fairly justified negative attitude of our protagonist towards this deity, his daughter Saren, together with the servant of this temple, pray with smiles on their faces. They thank this goddess for everything, and so on. After they finish praying to this deity, they look at Perseus because they do not hear any prayers or requests from him. Due to the fact that his daughter is looking at this man, he is simply forced to do this, so we watch as the Demon Lord thanks the goddess Tirsa for everything she gave him. After all, these three, while in church, prayed to the goddess of mercy and abundance. A happy smile appeared on everyone's face because they did everything right. Only the Demon Lord among them felt uneasy. But literally a couple of moments later, this very sweet and slightly strange scene is interrupted because someone else bursts into the cathedral, this time shouting that they have just had problems. This next worker of this temple told everyone who was inside that there was a demon walking outside right now. This girl was very alarmed, just like Perseus. The employee of this temple objected to this news by saying that this sacred place is surrounded by a barrier that was erected by the divine power itself, so the appearance of a demon is unlikely. But after a couple of moments, we look at the Demon Lord in human form and understand that he is the culprit of this incident. because he removed this barrier due to the fact that it annoyed him. Having been transported to the street, we observe that outside there really is a demon boar of enormous size who clearly wants to feast on and mock the pathetic little people. A real panic begins in the cathedral. The blonde girl tells everyone around them to move to the chapel dungeon as quickly as possible. The crowd grabs their children and runs away to the designated place. However, the culprit of this fuss is not going to wait until everyone gets to a safe place. Not knowing how to use the doors, this huge demonic boar literally enters the temple right through. After this demon of enormous size bursts into the cathedral hall, he turns to the pitiful people to tell them that despite their desperate attempts to escape, they will never be able to escape from him alive. This huge demonic boar continues to instill horror and panic in everyone around him. Meanwhile, he continues his movement towards harmless people who would most likely be doomed to death. But a couple of moments after this, the demon lord himself catches the eye of this huge boar, standing next to his daughter Saren, whom he sheltered or stole. The boar is perplexed. When the frame moves to Perseus himself, we watch as he, maintaining complete composure, looks at this insignificant demon in his eyes, and around him is his ominous aura of the king of demons. While everyone around continues to run away, the demon lord himself in human form continues to stand with his daughter Saren as if nothing had happened, and the boar continues to be perplexed. The only thing that is now in this man's head is what the hell did this pathetic demonic boar decide to do here? There is complete indifference on his face and not a drop of emotion. But this is an obvious thing, because for the king of demons, this pathetic demonic pig does not pose any threat to him, unlike his daughter, who, being frightened, carefully takes her father by the hand. After Marius feels the light touch of small hands on his arm, he turns to his daughter in order to understand what she wants from him, because it is not obvious to him that she might be afraid. But after the demon lord completely turns around and looks at his daughter, Saren realizes that because of this damn demon, his daughter was scared and shed tears. He realizes that things are bad. Realizing that his daughter is afraid of this demonic pig, which for him is an ant, he leans over to Saren and, straightening her hair, asks her if she is scared. The daughter does not answer anything because it is obvious. But the father of this girl is clearly not a mistake. In order to cheer up his daughter, he invites her to play a game in order to take her mind off her sadness. The girl puzzledly asks her father what kind of game it is. The demon lord begins to explain that the essence of the game is that Saren must close her eyes and count until he allows her to open them. This is all this brilliant game. The girl continues to get scared and cry a little, but her father puts his hand on her head and says that if she does everything as her dad said, then this terrible monster boar will hibernate. Little Saren asks her father in surprise after she heard the rules whether he will really hibernate, to which the father, leaning his forehead against the daughter's forehead, says that it's true. Saren's father continues to show us all that he has a good level of charisma. For this reason, he asks his daughter if she really believes her daddy's words. The little girl takes her will into her fist and stops crying, and declares to her father that in this case she is ready to start the game, the conditions of which her father voiced right now. Immediately after this, a moment later, we watch as the daughter of the demon lord tightly closes her eyes as her father asked, and begins to count to comply with the rules of the game. While little Saren continues to count, and more specifically, reaches the number 2, Marius moves away from his daughter and slowly moves towards this wild boar, simultaneously filling himself with his demonic power. Approaching this huge boar, this guy is going to give him the most powerful slap in the history of demons and humanity. But at this moment, the boar is terribly scared because he understands that this is the ruler in front of him. However, it is too late for this boar to repent. Precisely for this reason, we watch as the demon lord gives this boar the most powerful crack in the history of all mankind, and the boar flies away. While this man's daughter counts to 3, we continue to watch the brutal reprisal of this boar. This seemingly ordinary powerful slug becomes even stronger, causing colossal damage. A couple of moments after this, we watch as the demon boar, while in flight, gets acquainted with the ground with its face and makes another exit from this temple with its huge but useless carcass. Then we watch back to the demon lord, who at that time stood calmly with his palm out towards this monster. He simply watched as this boar was blown away by one of his clicks, but only his daughter closed her eyes. Everyone else in the cathedral who did not have time to escape simply could not believe their eyes, because just before their eyes, an ordinary person dealt with a boar with a click. Meanwhile, the daughter of this giant man continued to keep her eyes closed and count. At this point in time, when the boar was deeply knocked out, she had already reached the number 4. But after a couple of moments, we watch as this girl's father approaches her and puts his hand on her head and tells her that it's all over, and she can open her eyes. Immediately after this girl opens her eyes and simply cannot believe her eyes, because the boar of impressive size, which recently inspired fear, actually hibernated, as her father said. The father answers his daughter that it couldn't be otherwise. Moreover, he asks if the father is cool, isn't he? And in response to this, he receives an answer from his enthusiastic daughter that her father is really the best. After Saren says these words to her father, she literally pierces his heart with both legs and inflicts critical damage on him, and a whole fountain of blood suddenly emerges from his nose. No less surprised, people in the temple around are wondering if they can now go back to their homes. Saren happily replies that this is so. She also asks her father why he is bleeding from his mouth. The crowd around simply could not remain indifferent to this amazing situation, which is why we watch as these two are distracted from the conversation. I apologize for this. The guy and his daughter turn around in surprise. Turning around, we, along with Perseus and his daughter, see all the employees of this destroyed temple who simply cannot believe their eyes. They ask the guy if he is really a lazy hero since he dealt with the monster so easily. The guy was in a complete stupor. After he heard this from the enthusiastic workers of this temple, he did not know how to respond to this because in reality, he was a retired demon king. But after a couple of moments, this man turned to his daughter, who was simply beside herself after she heard that her father was really called the cool hero Sigma. Apparently he had a plan. Saren continued by asking her father if those who are called heroes really protect the weak and punish the bad so that the weak have a better life. She asked her father if this is so. The little daughter continued to tell her father that the priest told her that heroes are warriors who are strong and beautiful. That is, they themselves are apostles of justice. Perseus, as the king of demons, was very uncomfortable listening to all this. Sweat was running down his face, and he asked his beloved daughter if this was true. He did not know what to answer to this at all. The daughter, with a very joyful face, told her father whether this means that her daddy is one of those heroes who protect the weak even sometimes, and at the cost of his life. She was very pleased. A couple of moments after this, the guy comes up with a brilliant idea. He decides that he can afford to be called a hero. He tells his daughter that he is a defender of justice, Hero Zion. After this announcement to the public, the entire crowd around could not believe it. They were shocked that there was really a hero in front of them. They were very happy because it meant that they were under constant protection. But suddenly the crowd wondered why the guy called himself Zion, because it seemed to them that they were familiar with this name. Many had heard it, and Zion felt awkward because he was deceiving his own daughter. A couple of moments after Zion's public announcement, his daughter Saren suddenly turns to her father out of the blue, to which Zion turns to his daughter in surprise. Meanwhile, Saren, being very inspired, tells her father in all seriousness that she has decided to become a great hero, just like her best daddy. Judging by Zion's face at that moment, this was clearly not what he wanted to hear after he called himself a hero, because for a demon lord to hear that his daughter wants to become a hero is not very cool. After a couple of moments, we rise to heaven and see how the very goddess whom Zion worshipped tells another goddess that recently the king of demons himself began to offer prayers to her. They believe that he has gone crazy. Then the course of events is interrupted and we are transported back to the outside world, watching as Saren continues to call his father to tell him something. Moments later, we watch as the little girl throws herself into her father's arms and tells him that she loves him more than anything in the world. The father, judging by his reaction, is clearly in shock. Our main character answers his daughter that dad also loves her more than anything in the world, and that means that their love is mutual. In response to this, his daughter smiles sweetly after that. Suddenly, the girl says that she has something else to add. She asks her father if he knows that there are two things that she, on the contrary, does not like at all. The father, continuing to smile, asks his daughter what they are. At this moment, Saren tells her father that first of all she hates people who lie. The guy continues to stand with a happy face. She is ready to move on to the second point. A couple of moments after this guy's daughter rushes into his arms again and tells him that she hates the Demon King more than anything in the world, and the guy is simply shocked after this. Next, we understand that this little girl did not just hug her daddy. While she hugged him, she stabbed him in the chest. The Demon Lord looked at his daughter in surprise and did not understand what was happening. Standing in front of her wounded father, this girl adds that her father unfortunately fits all the criteria, so she asks him not to be offended by what she just did. In the eyes of the Demon Lord, who was the father of this girl, it began to get dark. His consciousness began to be lost, and he heard a remark that she had to kill him because it is the duty of a hero. A couple of moments after this, we watched this guy's face, which was twisted in pain and screaming at the top of his lungs from what happened in the last couple of minutes with him, because it was terrible. Then we watch as this guy suddenly finds himself in his bed. He sighs and realizes that everything he saw recently was just a dream. And all of this, fortunately, is not true. A couple of moments after the demon lord realizes that everything terrible that happened to him was a dream, he turns to the side and sees his servant of the fourth most powerful, Luke. Next, we see Luke himself in front of us, who for some strange reason walks in an apron and covers his chest. He asks his master if everything is okay with him and if anything is bothering him. Cyan got up from his bed and told his servant Luke not to wear an apron on his naked body. Then he asked the servant what he thought about the heroes. Having heard the question, Luke hesitated to answer. But a couple of moments after this blonde servant of the demon lord loudly mocks and says that heroes are people who can only prattle on about their greatness and nothing more. A couple of moments after the demon lord hears his servant Luke's answer, he quickly gets up from his bed and punches his servant in the face as quickly as possible. Next, we watch as the blonde receives this powerful blow from his master. The reason for this blow is that he dared to mock his daughter's dream of becoming a real hero. A couple of moments later, we watch the body of the demon lord's servant lying on the floor. He wondered why his majesty did this to him. Cyan responded by apologizing to him, saying that he just lost his temper. A couple more seconds pass into the room where the servant Luke is, and the ruler himself enters, and his daughter, who, like Lux, is dressed in an apron, calls her father in a good mood. Immediately after this, Cyan gets rid of his servant as quickly as possible and goes to his beloved daughter as quickly as possible because he loves her more than anything in the world and is ready for anything. Luke wonders why he's a ghost right now, and Serene herself wonders why Uncle Luke is lying on the floor, but the Lord himself responds by saying that he doesn't know why. That is why the Lord tells his servant Luke to get up as quickly as possible. He tells Saren that they have not seen each other for a long time. Saren immediately remembered something and begins the story. The girl continues saying that today she scolded the bad kids, or to be more precise, she punished the kids who offended the poor cat whom she held in her arms. Saren continued saying that from now on she will try harder to one day become a real Giga Chad warrior. In response to this, Cyan replies that this will happen someday. After Luke heard Serene's words that he was going to become a hero, he immediately gets up from the knockout and asks the little girl if she is really going to become a hero. After a couple of moments, everything finally fits into a single puzzle in the head of Luke's servant. He finally understands what the matter is. Most likely, he again understood everything wrong because he is not particularly bright with intellect. Next, we understand that the Lord's servant Luke understood all this since the Lord is raising a human child in order to make a hero out of her, thereby surrounding her with kindness and care. The attack of this underrated genius continues. He says that all this means that the ruler wants to raise and introduce a spy who will report to him about the actions of the hero. All this is brilliant as expected. Next, Luke falls to the floor bowing before the Lord, saying that he is amazed by his foresight, and since such a thing, he asks him to rely on him because he will take upon himself the training of this girl and make her a warrior. At this point, the course of events ends and we are transported back to the realm of demons where this manhwa began. Apparently the servant Lux did something wrong again. Next, we watch as Luke, with a huge bump on his head, asks the Lord for forgiveness for his stupidity, because he really misunderstood his Lord quite recently. But as it turns out, the demon lord does not hold a grudge against his servant. He asks him to forget about it, and instead find a better solution. Luke asks what his Lord means. A couple of moments later, the Demonichensky ruler ordered his servant to figure out what to do so that his daughter would change her mind about becoming a hero as she dreams of, because this is an unfavorable situation for him. In response to this order, the servant of the demon lord wondered if this strange desire in a little girl would go away on its own. That is, in his opinion, it's just like the emo period in teenagers. Servant Luke continued wondering if this is just a child's dream, and even if she continues to dream about it, not every person can become a full-fledged hero only by wanting. But in response to this, the demon lord refuted his servant's theory, saying that in the case of his daughter there is no hope for this, which means they still need a plan so that she doesn't want to. A couple of moments after this, we understand why Cyan understood that, if desired, Saren would calmly become a hero. Because for her to lift a huge boulder in order to help her grandfather was not an obstacle. In addition to her stunning physical strength, this little girl was also capable of catching a huge beetle and tying it to a tree, and also boasting to her daddy. Her father had no choice but to praise. Moreover, after some time, the demon lord, or simply the father of the girl Cyan, became convinced that being a hero was his daughter's calling, because even the magic fortune-telling ball spoke about this. His Dark Highness continued the conversation with the servant, saying that his daughter is very talented, So in short, their task is to somehow deprive her of the opportunity to become a hero, so they need a plan. Immediately after the two realized the task they were facing, they began to think hard together to come up with a way to dissuade this girl from becoming a hero. Servant Luke once again came up with an idea. He asked the Lord, what about destroying humanity? Because without humanity there will be no heroes, so they will get rid of the problem at the root. His Highness was clearly dissatisfied with this answer, and he offered to destroy him in response. And after this, his servant Luke began again to look for the answer to this problem using the demonic library. Poor servant Luke didn't understand why His Majesty hated him so much, but that wasn't entirely true. Meanwhile, this guy stopped. Most likely he found something interesting. After a couple of moments, we watched the very surprised face of the demonic king. Apparently, they had found a book that could certainly somehow help in solving the problem facing them. We do not find out what kind of book this is, and the course of events is interrupted and continues when we are transported to the outside world, and the demon lord, following the course of events, also leaves the demonic kingdom. Zion, being in human form, invites his daughter to read a book to her before bed so that she can sleep easier. The daughter predictably asks her daddy if this will be a story about a hero. Then we finally see the book itself, which the ruler found in the demonic library along with his servant. The book says that these are tales about heroes, so he answers his daughter that this is the truth about heroes. Like any other story, this story begins with the fact that a long time ago in one village, there lived a brave warrior who was loved by everyone around him. Moreover, he always showered her with applause. This story was surprisingly short, because immediately after this illustration, there is an illustration when this hero soon died. It happened as suddenly as possible, and without any details. And the inhabitants of this hero's village simply continued to live happily ever after, and without any hero. That is, they didn't need a hero that much. And so this extremely dubious story about heroes ended. After Saren listened to this simply terrible story, she said that it was absolutely terrible. She probably had no more than 5 points on Metacritic, which is why she asked her father for another. After the girl asks for a new fairy tale, it begins again with an illustration where there lived one brave warrior whom everyone applauded and loved very much. The next illustration was that one day, the hero heard about the existence of an evil demon king. Immediately after that, the hero went to the demon kingdom to seek a meeting. Immediately after this, a life and death battle ensued between the hero and the evil demon king. But in the end, the hero managed to defeat the most important evil of this world all alone. Some time passed, and after the hero managed to defeat the king of the demons, people began to celebrate his victory and praise the hero, and then they even made him the king of this place. But after the hero received unlimited power into his hands, he imposed huge taxes on his subjects and forced them to work from dawn to dawn. This king was terrible, and he did not think about people at all. But all this ended after one of the ordinary days of this terrible reign. A strong demon appeared out of nowhere and managed to defeat this hero who was torturing everyone. Thereby peace reigned. Not much time passed, and this noble demon took the throne in his place and began to rule over people and demons as the king of demons. He freed people from terrible taxes and provided them with a peaceful life. The man's daughter didn't like this story at all. She said that this story was very stupid. She asked her father to tell a story about himself instead. Zion was very surprised to hear this desire. His daughter confirmed her desire by saying that he himself says that he is a very cool hero. The guy was at a loss because he really lied to his daughter about being a very cool hero. After the man realized this, he told his daughter that her dad was once a very cool warrior. Then the daughter asked him if he had ever met the demon king himself. The answer was positive. Hearing this, the stars began to shine in the eyes of the little girl. She became interested and asked her daddy if he had a duel with the demon king himself. Asking the question, she was looking forward to the answer. Despite the fact that it was a fight with himself, the guy replied that the battle took place immediately after that. Saren asked her father who was stronger, her daddy or the evil demon king. For some time, the guy didn't know how to answer this, perhaps the most inconvenient question for him, because he is the king of demons himself. But after a few moments, a brilliant idea came to him on how to get out. Leaning towards his daughter and calling her by name, the man said that even though he is a very strong demon king, much stronger than Dad, moreover, he is stronger even than she can imagine. After this little girl who dreamed of becoming a hero heard that the demon lord is very strong, she immediately became upset. Moreover, she found out that her daddy is weaker than the demon king. But it didn't take this guy long to notice that his daughter was very sad after she heard the answer to her last question. He looked at his daughter, but Zion found the strength to continue the conversation, saying that the demon king is a very terrible creature, which is why she should never encounter him under any circumstances. But this little girl, gaining confidence, replied that she would become 100% much stronger, and she would definitely immediately take revenge after that for the fact that the Demon King turned out to be stronger than her dad. The father of this girl, having heard this answer, was as puzzled as possible because his plan worked completely the other way around. He was going to dissuade the girl from becoming a hero, but now she has more reasons. Zion began to dissuade his daughter from this impulsive decision, saying that she should under no circumstances do this. In response to this, the girl told her dad that he should trust him. Next, we are greeted with a message that the mission called Solving the Problem with the Help of Stories was completely failed because the man failed to change his daughter's opinion with the help of tragic stories. The course of events accelerates forward for some time, but the location of the action still remains the house in which Zion and his daughter Siren live. We witness how a little girl turns to her diary. She tells her personal diary that today, her dad told her several stories about warriors with a rather sad ending, but they were all very stupid and she didn't like them. The girl's next entry is that for this reason she asked her father to tell her a story about himself. In the end, her dad told her about the powerful Demon King. It seemed to her that he was very afraid of him. That is why the girl had a new goal, and she decided to promise her father that she would definitely become stronger, and then she would definitely take revenge for her father on the King of Demons by defeating him. Siren's notes continued that after these words of hers, Dad was moved and cried with happiness, and Siren herself, after she had a new goal and dream, was very happy about this fact. We continued to watch how this happy little talented girl filled her diary with colorful markers for the sake of her dad. She decided to become the best warrior hero in the world. Immediately after she wrote that last line about how she was going to become a hero for the sake of her beloved dad, she slammed her personal diary because the entries were finished. After this girl went to bed, her father or the Demon King himself was not ashamed to brazenly open his daughter's diary and read all its contents. Once again, he realized that things were bad. Meanwhile, we continue to be in the outside world, and we are still watching the actions taking place in the cozy house of Zion and his daughter, Siren. It's already late at night on the street, but these two are not sleeping. We are transported inside. We watch as the father of this little girl catches her lying on the floor, contentedly painting some sheet of paper, drawing a work of art. After a couple of moments, we and the Demon King witness how the great masterpiece authored by Siren finishes it and contentedly holds it above his head, looking at the details. After she finishes drawing it, she runs to her father so that immediately after finishing the drawing, she can share her art with the person closest to her. That is, her father. The father, without hesitation, takes the drawing from his daughter in order to see what he drew there, but after looking at everything, he does not understand what is actually drawn there. A picture opens before us that depicts the hero's routine, consisting of the fact that the hero needs to do good deeds, study well, and play sports because this is very important for health. Next, this girl told her father, filled with pride, that from tomorrow she will begin to comply with each of the points described in this picture, but our main character continued to not understand. Immediately after the girl explained to her father everything she meant, she immediately ran to her room because she had to fall asleep quickly in order to get up earlier, and Zion continued to look at the drawing. A couple of moments after his daughter completely left this room and went to her bed, his dark aura of a real demonic lord began to appear around the guy. Then he took on his true appearance. He was clearly very dissatisfied with the list he saw of his daughter. Then he called his servant Luke to discuss something with him because they are working together on a plan. He was very angry because it was not the first time that his servant Luke's mistake was connected with the fact that because of his stupid book they were doing everything wrong again, and the servant himself was timidly peeking around the corner at that moment. Looking at their servant with hunting eyes, Zion continued to say that in total, they tried 43 options, and all these 43 options turned out to be a complete failure that did not bring them any progress. The Demon King this time firmly decided that he would not allow the 44th attempt to fail again, while his servant Luke apparently flew back across the throne room from the outburst of the Lord's anger. A couple of moments later, the Demon King himself passed by his servant Luke, who at that moment was lying on all fours. He ordered him to immediately call a meeting of all members of the demonic kingdom. While the Demon King returned to the underworld to his domain in order to hold a meeting of the coolest demons, we moved back to the girl who was sleeping peacefully at that moment. But her dream stopped just as abruptly as the peak of Starfield's popularity, because in an instant she moved away from her sleep and suddenly woke up because she had the intention of waking up as early as possible. Immediately after this girl got up, she jumped out of her bed and began to perform various blows on the poor air, because today she will begin to perform the hero's routine, as her father watched. This time, this man who was actually the Demon King was much calmer about the plan than before, because this time he personally prepared everything behind him. We watched the silhouettes of the most powerful demons. After Zion once again made sure that everything this time would go as smoothly as possible, he realized that now he was serious and what he had in mind would be a real battle. A couple of moments later, we watched as this little heroine began to get dressed and eat breakfast on the go. She said goodbye to her father because she intends to go do good according to her plan. Her father, like any other real loving father, could only wish her good luck so that she could accomplish what she had in mind. Meanwhile, little Saren left the house towards adventure. But after this girl went outside, an amazing picture awaited her. The commander of the 5th Detachment of the demonic army was doing repairs at that time, and another demon commander helped her grandmother with the garden. Everywhere you looked, there were only demons around, and every single one of them was engaged in charitable assistance to the villagers. Nothing bad could be said about any of them. They were literally saints. While the father of this daughter was contentedly watching her busy standing behind her, the girl was in shock because no matter where she looked, she understood that no one around needed her help, and her father understood that everything was going according to his plan. But after a couple of moments, this little girl's keen eye still allowed her to find her grandmother, who was carrying a heavy stone on her hump. She realized that it seemed very difficult for her, so this was a chance. After this little heroine saw the slightest opportunity to help someone, she instantly rushed to this grandmother in order to carry out her plan, which is part of the hero's routine. Zion understood that he should never allow his daughter to do good deeds, which is why Zion developed the speed of Usain Bolt in order to overtake his daughter and prevent her from doing a good deed. After our main character reached this granny, who obviously needed help, he immediately helped her, thereby depriving his daughter of the opportunity to do a good deed according to his plan. But this girl was in no hurry to get upset. She found a new goal, pointing at the man who was wielding a shovel. She decided that he seemed tired, so he should help the guy again, realized that he needed to be stopped. As soon as the poor little girl who just wanted to do a good deed in order to make progress in her dream of becoming a hero was set aside, her father again got ahead of her. Literally, a moment after the Demon King found himself next to a man who was digging the ground with a shovel, he made a kind face and invited him to rest while he finished this difficult work for him. Little Saren still did not give up, and she saw a little kitten who was in trouble stuck on a tree. But Sigma once again got ahead of her after he personally saved the kitten. After a couple of moments, Saren continued to try to help at least someone. This time her gaze came across like, and this is not a typo, this guy's name is literally like. He clearly needed help. This guy's daughter continued to find a new target to help over and over again, and after a few more attempts, the Demon King was completely exhausted, which is why he was sitting on a chair, knocked out. But the guy reassured himself that he was still able, at the cost of his efforts, to achieve his goals, because thanks to his actions, he did not allow his daughter to do a single good deed. Despite the fact that right now the Demon King himself was in front of us, he was seriously tired of this very difficult process of preventing his daughter from doing at least one good deed. He was even lost in space. But as soon as this guy was distracted literally for a minute, a moment later his beloved daughter came up to him from behind and asked him if he was tired, because judging by his appearance, he was definitely tired. That is why this very sweet girl decided to climb on a chair in order to reach her father's back in order to give him a massage. Her father was very pleased with such a sweet gesture of attention. A couple of moments later, this guy himself called his daughter kind because she had just done a good deed by giving him a massage. But these words wounded him to the very heart because he avoided this with all his might. Immediately after this little girl finally managed to do a good deed, she immediately reached for her hero routine paper and stamped the first item having done a good deed. The course of events is transferred home again, and this girl, meanwhile, pretending to be as smart as possible, asks her father not to distract her because now she will begin the process of her studies. The Demon King was, first of all, a loving father, so he immediately told his daughter that he would not interfere with her. Moreover, he told her to work hard, which is what this hardworking girl did. A couple of moments after this, the father of this girl left her room where she was studying, and turning to one of the demons said that he hoped that the demon understood what he needed to do. Immediately after this, we watched as this nimble demon stole some very important documents because we were in complete shock and tried to find the thief who committed this crime. Looking at this demon, we understand that he is not ordinary, because he is extremely experienced in bypassing any security of any level and entering the territory of any enemy without any special obstacles. Then we watched as this demon, having hidden himself as unnoticed as possible, slowly opened the scroll that he had recently stolen. Inside, the aerodynamics of a fly were described or something like that. Immediately after opening this scroll, some time passed. The drawing of this fly of strange origin began to smoke, as if the picture was trying to become alive and fly out of the picture. A couple of moments after this, the expectations were confirmed, and this fly really came out of the parchment. Just like in fairy tales, this demon's hobby was precisely the hidden missions that he carried out. After this strange fly gained its freedom from the parchment, it began to fly in some strange direction, and the demon who released it only silently watched where it would fly. A couple of moments after the fly continues to fly, we understand that the target of the NQJ fly is the girl herself, or the daughter of the Demon King, who at that time was studying hard and hoping that she would not be distracted. However, this pathetic fly turned out to be no obstacle for this Sigma girl, because as soon as she flew within the reach of her hands, she, as if nothing had happened, grabbed this fly in the air like Saitama. Immediately after Saren continued to study diligently without other distractions, she finally finished and took out her list of heroic deeds and put another stamp on the next item. At this moment, it was clearly unnecessary to bother this girl's father, because all this time he was sitting somewhere in the house and looking down in disappointment because his plan had once again failed miserably. However, the battle was lost, but not the war, because there was still 1/3 point left: sports activities. He smiled and realized that he no longer had to worry about this because he had a plan again. A couple of moments later, his daughter approaches Zion with some kind of map. She shows it and tells her father that tomorrow she is going to climb the mountain. The map marks the beginning of the path and its end. Looking at the plan of his daughter, the Gigachad with a plan understands that as soon as she leaves the village, his daughter will go straight along the road and then turn left, and after that she will pass his guard post. As it turned out later, this demonic king was looking at his daughter's route not at all out of interest, but in order to remember. After he succeeded, he sent his army to follow according to the plan. Before us was the following picture. At the very top, there was a barrier that repelled everything that touched it. There were monsters hidden in the area, and the stone was poisoned with a paralyzing poison for which a light touch is enough to take effect. The Demon King was sure that his daughter would under no circumstances be able to go all this way, which he carefully complicated for her as soon as possible. After saying goodbye to her father, the girl poisoned herself with tuad. After the father of this girl wished her good luck, he looked after her with the extremely evil gaze of a genius, because he was sure that his daughter would ultimately never reach her set goal on the route. It didn't take long for this guy's plan to take effect, because as soon as this girl opened the front door, she stopped because it started to rain heavily outside, which was already hindering her plans. But the girl was not upset at all, and decided that because of the rain she could work out at home. She began practicing Mike Tyson's punches, doing hundreds of push-ups and thousands of crunches like Saitama. All this time, Zion was watching her daughter, who was forced to once again admit that his plan again failed miserably, because his daughter, as always, was one step ahead of him. The course of events accelerates for a certain period of time, when this girl completes her most complex in order to become as strong as possible. She wipes the sweat from her forehead in satisfaction. After the Demon King's daughter finishes her very last task for the day, she puts the final third seal on her daily plan, this time in the form of her crying father. After this crushing failure, the Demon King realizes that parents are most likely truly powerless against the wishes of their children, because he and his strongest demons failed all operations. The Demon King realized that he was completely powerless against his daughter's will to become the greatest hero, so all he could do was watch his daughter reach new heights every day. Moreover, most of all, this girl was able to surprise us all with the last activity of the day in the form of sports exercises. This time she squatted with a weight of 600 kilograms. Don't look for excuses, act. All this time, Saren continued to go towards her dream. Despite any difficulties, she did everything to become the greatest hero. In addition to this, she constantly grew in size as time passed. This girl was simply terribly talented, so receiving universal recognition and praise was simply inevitable, which is why we watched as this girl was awarded various nominations. Everything went on for a very long time. Saren continued to reach new heights after new heights, and her achievements became more and more. In the end, it all led to an obvious outcome. In this narrative, in an accelerated format, the course of events breaks off and continues in the same location. That is, the house where this girl Saren lives and her father, who is actually the king of demons. Next, we observe how this girl remained devoted to her daily tasks because she was once again preparing to go out to help people. This time, she had equipment. They didn't limit themselves to just rough Gucci boots and cool armlets that give 100 armor, because what kind of hero can he be if he doesn't have a rough cloak that will look beautiful in the wind? Apparently, in addition to everything else, this girl clearly had a taste in swords or was inspired by Guts from the anime Berserk, because she also had a rather large two-handed sword on her back. For us, literally a few tens of minutes passed, but for this strange family, whole decades passed, which is why we watched the already adult girl heroine inform her father that she was leaving. At the age of 16, this girl named Saren was quickly enrolled in the Hero Academy. This day came, which is why this girl's father jumped into her arms and cried with joy. Despite the fact that the father was sincerely moved by his daughter's admission to the Hero Academy, she asked him to stop crying because she was just leaving for school. The father replied that she would not be home for a long time. Judging by the face of the previously powerful demon lord, we watched his face, which was all in tears. His daughter took his face and looked into his eyes and asked him to calm down. Despite the fact that it was indeed very difficult for this guy to say goodbye to his daughter, he still mustered the strength to slow down his pace a little and let his daughter say something. A couple of moments after this, we watched as the girl, after her father gave her a little freedom, finally exhaled because he really clung to her too tightly with tears. After this girl gathered her strength, she looked at her daddy with the most kawaii eyes and promised her father that she would come to him on vacation in exchange for the fact that he would not be sad. But tears and snot from all the holes on the face of the demonic king continued to flow continuously from parting. He tried to stop their flow, but nothing worked for him. He tried to agree. But a couple of moments after this, the servant Luke himself intervenes in this very sweet scene of separation between father and daughter, who brings with him huge knightly armor. Luke tells Miss Saren that he made this armor especially for her because she definitely won't get hurt in it. Saren answered him that he was out of his mind because how could she drag this pile of armor to the academy? After the servant Luke joined in this scene, he and his master fell to the floor. The Demon King begged his daughter to let him take her to the academy, but Luke did not want to be left alone. But Saren answered these two that they shouldn't worry so much, because she wasn't accepted into the Hero Academy for her pretty eyes, so she can handle it because she entered on the recommendation of... A couple of moments later, this girl abruptly stopped her speech after she saw something strange somewhere to the side, as if she had completely forgotten about something or had not taken it into account. Next, we understand, looking at where Saren was looking, that she had completely forgotten about the time that mercilessly moves forward. She informed these two that it was already exactly 10, and it was time for her to go. Immediately after this, the girl headed on her way to the academy from the heroes with a wide smile on her face. But this could not be said about the Diam King Zion and his servant Luke, who looked after her. Walking further and further, this girl told the two that it was time for them to say goodbye, which is why she waved to her family and told them that an Uber carriage was probably waiting for her. These two continued to sob inconsolably. Zion, trying to hold back the waterfall of his tears, wished his beloved daughter a happy journey. Luke also wiped his tears with a handkerchief, realizing that their girl had grown up very quickly. However, the girl herself was completely confident that she was doing everything right, continuing to walk to the carriage that would take her to the Academy of Heroes. She understood that her long-awaited path of a real heroine would soon begin. To lighten up such a sad scene of this girl's separation from her family, we were shown a comical episode of how our main character, being a Sigma, did not lose his head and took the armor to his daughter, which she did not take to sell. Meanwhile, the course of events is transferred to the very beginning of the Manhwa, when the Demon King was informed by the same already well-known Luke that an unknown warrior had invaded the lands of the Demon King. It was about some heroic warrior with short white hair. Despite the fact that he was alone, this man was able to easily break through the canyon of death in which there were a bunch of monsters of different levels. Then we watched this hero who was somewhat similar to Gojo Satoru. He also easily scattered all the monsters in his path. It seems that the defense of demons is not a hindrance to him. He moves through it without difficulty. Luke continued his denunciation, telling his master that he assumed that he was not heading to their castle at all. The Lord, in response to this, continued to remain silent. Probably he was doing mewing. Meanwhile, the servant Luke continued to read the information from the papers that were in his hands. He told his majesty that he looked tired because of this. Luke suggested that Sion take a little rest. But in response to this, instead of kindly refusing to rest, this Demon King looked at Luke as if he were a victim and simply said his name loudly and clearly while looking into his eyes. Apparently, this look was enough for Luke to understand that he had done something wrong. As always, he asked for forgiveness for leaving the topic of the report. Meanwhile, he was going to return to it. But this time he was interrupted by his master, which is why Luke simply fell silent and looked at his master. Meanwhile, Sion assumed that his daughter would be bullied by other students at the academy. Apparently, the invasion of the demonic lands of some Satoru Gojo did not worry this lord at all. He continued saying that he heard that in their days, children are increasingly bullying their peers. In response to this, the servant Luke only replied that he did not think that something like that could happen to Saren. In the meantime, he was going to return to the pressing affairs of the demonic kingdom about this warrior. Luke continued saying that this warrior is freely roaming the Krath region. His goal is obviously to collect as many things as possible that he can exchange for things that are profitable to him. But in response to this, the ruler of these lands only mocks, interrupting his servant's denunciation once again. This time he interrupted him due to the fact that while looking at the photo, he laughed at how funny his daughter was. Luke at that moment realized that His Majesty was not listening to him at all. The Lord still decided to answer that, since the hero dared to roam the lands of Krat alone, it is obvious that this guy is clearly not a weak one. But suddenly an insight finally came to the demonic king's head. Lightning thundered in his head when he thought about the fact that we are talking about a warrior who has good abilities. Meanwhile, the servant Luke continued his denunciation, saying that among those who invaded their lands, he can definitely be safely considered one of the strongest people who have now been here. Luke began to burn a denunciation about this hero in his hands, saying that regardless of his goals, he broke through the defense line, and this already says a lot. Moreover, he walks around their lands too freely. Luke considers this an insult. In addition, the commander who allowed the breach of their borders of demonic lands should also be punished for his mistake. The king replied that now this is not the most important thing. A couple of moments after this, the demon lord rose from his seat and told Luke that earlier he mentioned that this hero who invaded was walking on a plane of calm. He asked if it was harmful. Next, the demon king stands up completely from his seat and begins to flex his fists, telling his servant that he is beginning to feel that he must personally go there and meet him. Next, we observe the branches on which beautiful birds are sitting. This tells us that the course of events is moving from the underground kingdom of demons back to the beautiful outside world of people. A moment after this, we observe a rather large city, which is surrounded on one side by huge stone walls and other various buildings. This is the Ohio of the castle world. A little more time later, we are transported to the carriage in which our main character spent a huge amount of time in order to finally get to the city where the Yagero Academy is located. Next, we watch as this cart in which our main character, who is fast asleep, is riding, suddenly collides with a pebble, which means that a small earthquake will begin inside. As expected, immediately after the carriage passes over this small stone, Saren, who has been inside the carriage for quite some time, finally wakes up in the city. A couple of moments after this, the cart stops and the one who is the driver asks the girl if she is going to get out. The stunned girl, looking around, realizes that she is the only one left. After the girl realizes that once in the city she instantly finds herself in an awkward situation, she immediately jumps out of her seat and shouts that she is already leaving. She even rips off the bedspread. After the driver of this cart, who apparently valued it very much, sees the damage that this girl caused to his cart, his eyes literally fly out of his sockets. Our main character understands that in an attempt to get out of an awkward situation as quickly as possible, she found herself in another more awkward situation. She realized that she accidentally broke the cart. The dissatisfied driver immediately got out of this cart and stood in front of this girl with a huge sword, stretched out his hand in front of her and asked her who would pay for all this. The girl reached for her wallet. After our main character finally deals with this awkward situation, we are transported to a city called the City of Shilos, or otherwise known as the City of the Hero. After this girl finds herself inside this local Ohio, she cannot believe her eyes because she is amazed by the beauty of this place, and besides, she finally got to the arch. It becomes very difficult for the girl to restrain her emotions. She does it with all her might. She understands that she will finally enter the walls of the Hero Academy, and from this moment on, she will finally begin the path of the warrior Saren. But this girl's stomach clearly does not agree with her grandiose plans, so he quickly tells her this in the language of facts. The girl understands that before starting the journey, she needs to eat. A couple of moments after this, the problem is solved by itself at amazing speed, because a couple of moments after the girl decides to eat, her nose smells a very pleasant smell from somewhere. The girl decides to rely on her incredible heroic sense of smell, which does not let her down because it leads her straight to products, masterpieces of flower products that someone takes somewhere. Serene is very lucky because she stumbles upon a bakery. She can already smell the aroma of a fresh, soft inside and crispy outside honey butter bun, and they even have baguettes. After a couple of moments, we apparently see the owner of this place, which is simply excellent in appearance. This old man is seeing off the previous customer, telling him to come again. After this, Mr. KFC sees off the last customer. He calls the next one so that another person can enjoy the masterpieces of flour products from his magnificent bakery. Next, in front of him, he sees our main character, who cannot stop the waterfall of her drool while looking at these works of art. He greets the girl and asks what she wants. With a smile on his face, standing in front of the girl, this kind-looking old man reports, judging from his experience, that the girl in front of him is extremely hungry. He once again asks her what he wants to eat. After a girl hears that they ask her what they want, her eyes literally run all over the place because she has many delicious options to get rid of wild hunger. She instantly reaches for her wallet in order to understand what budget she can use to satisfy her hunger, but reality is full of disappointments, and our main character's wallet is completely empty. The girl understands that she is disappointed because she spent all her money on compensation for the repair of a painting that she accidentally destroyed, which is why she is forced to answer the owner that she will return another time. Next, our main character continues to walk the streets of the city, but from the enormous feeling of hunger that does not leave her, her eyes slowly begin to darken, and her strength begins to quickly deplete.
After a couple of moments, this girl grabs her stomach and realizes that if a little more time passes, she will definitely faint from this hunger. The path to becoming a warrior is not an easy one.
But a moment later, our main character catches the eye of a small white kitten who runs past holding a small piece of bread in her hands. He immediately attracts her attention because of the bread. This girl is currently so hungry that the bun that this kitten is holding in her mouth becomes her #1 goal, which she simply cannot let out of her sight. A couple of moments after this, we watch another kitten who is bending down contentedly eating this beautiful piece of bread, although the fact that cats eat bread is a little strange. Next, we watch a girl with short white hair who asks her kittens if they are very hungry. She tells them that she has more, so for now there will be enough for everyone. These cats clearly make it clear to this girl that they really crave this piece of bread in order to feast on it to the fullest. They hope to get a supplement to satisfy their hunger. Then we watch our main character who, having noticed this profitable promotion of bread for cats, decides apparently to pretend to be a cat so that she too can get this juicy bun. But after our main character approaches this girl with short white hair, the only thing you can see on her face is bewilderment, which is associated with Saren's attempt to pretend to be a cat. After a couple of moments, the course of events speeds up a little, and we observe a lot of plastic bags lying on the asphalt, already empty. Most likely there were buns of bread there. Next, we watch our main character who continues to mercilessly devour one loaf of bread after another. With her mouth full, she asks this girl if she really can eat all this. In response to this, she is told that she has already eaten everything after that. Our main character laughs and reports that she can finally again now be full of strength for achievements of a heroic scale. The man who sits next to Saren turns out to be a guy. The girl thanks him for feeding her bread and calls him a very kind person. This compliment makes the guy feel embarrassed. Despite the fact that the interlocutor of our main character is very embarrassed, she continues the aggressive conversation asking how old he is. The guy is surprised and asks this girl why she needs this information. In response to this, Saren replied that she asked him this because she thought that they could well be the same age. After hearing this explanation, this guy still continued to be very embarrassed. A moment later, this guy still collected all his testosterone reserves in order to say that he was 16 years old, and immediately after that bowed his head down. Saren was surprised by his timidity. But after a couple of moments, our main character once again took all the initiative, saying that she was also 16 years old, so she invited him to be friends. The guy asked her again in surprise. He continued saying that they were just the same age. He wondered if that really made them friends. Serene replied that it was obvious, but now they were friends, and that's why they also divided bread among themselves. While this incredibly timid guy, who found it very difficult to communicate with girls, continued to think that he had a girlfriend, the girl noticed a strange joke that he had under his robe. Thanks to her critical thinking and incredibly sharp eyes, immediately after she noticed this, she immediately asked this guy what he had there, but she already had an idea. However, our main character did not have time to finish because suddenly some luxurious lady with a strange hat appeared on the horizon and loudly called this guy to her by the name of Silver. Immediately after this very luxurious girl, surrounded by workers who were carrying her loads, called this guy, he instantly jumped up from his seat in order to answer the call of this woman. At the same moment, this guy's gaze became incredibly cloudy. He apologized to Saren and said that it was time for him and that he should go. He answered as dryly and unemotionally as possible after the appearance of this lady. The main character, having witnessed this scene, could not say anything after this leaving guy because she was very surprised by this rather strange coincidence of circumstances that she did not understand. After Silver approached this lady, she asked him doubtfully if he had time to bother with the homeless. She continued by telling him that she thought he was sensible. This rather strange lady continued to tell Silver that they still had a lot of things to do, so she told this guy to move quickly, otherwise they might not be able to make it somewhere, but it is not specified where. Silver at this moment continues to walk as if dead inside with the most empty and aimless look in response to all these comments from this lady. He only answers her as briefly and dryly as possible that everything is clear to him. This lady was the mother of this guy named Silver. After that, we watched as this woman Silver and a whole crowd of people carrying their loads continued to go somewhere. Apparently, they were in a hurry somewhere. Meanwhile, our main character was just thinking about the fact that she definitely noticed that on the letter that she saw, this guy definitely had the seal of the Hero Academy, which means they will meet again soon. After the girl realized that he would soon see his new friend again, she stopped being depressed and instead she got up from the bench and began to stretch because her stomach was very full. After getting up from the bench, our main character stretched and did some exercises. She took her huge sword and put it behind her back. Now she could go to the academy, ready for anything. Despite the fact that Silver walked with his mother with the most empty look, he still turned back to look at his new friend whom he met. The course of events is interrupted and time speeds up a little until the most elite building of this city appears in front of us, which is the building of the Academy of Heroes where Saren went. Moving closer to this Academy of Heroes and watching the crowds of students from above, we see a variety of candidates to become heroes. Notable among them are Silver and the damn lion on the left. After a couple of moments looking at the very building of this Academy of Heroes, we see how the same old man from the game Monopoly looks out of the window to look at the crowd of future heroes. Looking out the window, this grandfather from Monopoly in a wig understands that this year, unlike previous years, many more talented students have gathered who can become powerful heroes and work for the good. A couple of moments after this, we are shown a girl who is fluent in various magical seals and spells. This is a master of magical seals from the Kingdom of Shilos. A moment later, we see an obvious pink fan who asks the guy who is carrying her on his neck to lift her higher because she can't see anything. This is the general sorceress from the Count family, Ronya de Refpeltz. And going a little lower, we see a guy with a not-so-easy fate who acts as a riding horse. He tells the girl that she's just a runt. The name of this guy is Roman. He's Ronya's guardian. A couple of moments later, we watch Johnny Cage, or his twin, who, judging by his flaming fists, can easily deal with huge crowds of various enemies. Right now, we have before us a representative of one of the 4 largest groups of mercenaries, or more precisely, the Valiant group. His name is Harkus, and at the moment, he is a mercenary of A rank. The next person is quite difficult because she is a former candidate for sainthood, one of the apostles, a girl with gathered green hair named Chloe de Archabet. She immediately noticed a lot of cute guys around. Next, we are introduced to probably the most exotic students in whose veins special animal blood flows. It was they who were brought to the Tiger Academy by a guy named Wolfgang Leo. And another member of this exotic group which belongs to the Dark Elf race, and her name is Shan. The dwarf Olaf is also included in their ranks, but you understand him because he is not visible here due to his short stature. The next one we will be introduced to among the candidates for heroes is the swordsman of the Kingdom of Lutine, famous to the general public named Levick de Agnes, who is the second son of the Duke of Agnes. While the grandfather from Monopoly continues to name one candidate after another, after the blonde with fencing skills, he abruptly stops. Apparently he has encountered some kind of problem. The reason why this little man suddenly stops from studying the list of candidates is the same Silver whom he notices from the window. Judging by his outfit and cape, he is trying to be secretive. The next candidate with the heroes whom we already met is a guy from the Kingdom of Lutine. Like the last candidate, his name is Silver de Jin, the son of Duke Jin, but for some reason he is hiding. This grandfather with gray hair and a mustache stops mysteriously after he reads about this candidate. I repeat the name of Duke Jin. He understands that the prestige of the family is higher. But this old man with gray hair from Monopoly doesn't have time to finish, because on the main street in front of the academy something is happening. A candidate from the same family as Silver comes up to him and defiantly stomps behind him. The famous swordsman, finding himself behind this Silver, who did not want to shine here, asks the question standing in front of him. Who is it that they have lit up here? He calls Silver his old friend. Next, this intimidated Silver raises his gaze to look at this typical bully in the form of a blonde. Raising his head, he calls this guy Levick. Apparently they really know each other. Next, he and his retinue of 2 guys surround poor Silver and ask him if the rumors that he entered the Hero Academy are really true. Silver, lowering his head, answers that this is really true. Levick asks his old friend why he is here because he was never interested in all this. Silver continues to be terribly timid and weak. He cannot answer a single question normally. Next, this blonde with 60 IQ decides that he caught this guy, which is why he asks him a question. Does he really want to inherit the title? And even for this, he decided to become a hero by entering the academy. Despite a rather specific and direct question from Levick, this incredibly timid guy continues to break under the pressure of this retinue of bullies and continues to simply remain silent without answering them. After Levick realizes that the victim is completely in his hands, he looks at his retinue and tells them to get started. These two immediately tell Silver that he doesn't even have to think about the title. Then these two continue to put moral pressure on this guy, but Silver is especially pierced by the words that he is just the son of a concubine who will never see a title and a normal life. These two continue to put pressure on this guy, asking him if he even sees Duke Jin at home at least sometimes, or if he doesn't even know about his existence as such and has no idea. Next, this blonde who wants to break the spirit of this guy as much as possible, who is already very timid, bends over to him in order to give him, in his words, friendly advice, which is not so. A couple of moments after this remark, this Levick looks down at Silver and tells him not to forget his place because he is just a puppet who does whatever his greedy mother tells him. After such a moral attack and pressure from all sides on this poor boy, as expected, tears begin to roll into his eyes. Now it's clear why he tried to hide as best as possible. While these trios continue to mock Silver, telling him to always remember that he is just a non-entity, our main character appears on stage and runs at full speed to her friend. A couple of moments later, Saren makes the most spectacular appearance by jumping and landing right next to her new friend, who at that moment simply cannot believe his eyes that this girl is here. Interesting fact. This girl lands not on the ground or even on a bench, but on the face of this arrogant blonde who thinks that he is the main character, so he gets it in the face. After our main character lands completely on the ground, looking down, she realizes that she accidentally knocked someone down with her landing. But as it turned out, she did it on purpose. A couple of moments after her incredibly cool landing, this girl waves to her new friend and greets him, telling him that they finally met again. The girl is in no particular hurry to get up from the guy. After Silver reminds our main character that she is still on the body of the defeated Levick, she remembers him and abruptly removes her legs from him. The same grandfather watches all this. His surprise is caused not only by this situation. In addition to this, he has no idea who the hell this student is. He begins to quickly flip through the list of candidates in his hands in order to find who it is. After some time, this old man still manages to find our main character named Saren. Her status is a commoner, and the person responsible for her is Baron Vivan. Her birthplace is the kingdom of Shepos. Moreover, the old man is surprised that this girl killed the member of the most famous family of fencers with just one blow, and Saren understands that she almost got into trouble from the very first day. The course of events at this moment ends abruptly, and we continue when the course of events is transferred to the underground demonic kingdom, or more precisely to the plains of silence, in which the king of the demons meets the hero. The demon king is not an empty talker, because immediately after he decided to personally meet with the man who scatters all the monsters in his underground kingdom, he did so, and in the meantime the hero took a fighting stance. Apparently, this idiot was going to finish the fight with the Demon King himself as quickly as possible, because immediately after he saw him in front of him, he made a quick dash towards him. Immediately after, with the help of a quick dash, this blonde reduced the distance to his opponent. He jumped high into the air in order to carry out an attack from above towards the Lord of the Underworld and demons. However, it was as easy as shelling pears for the Demon King to repel this most obvious attack of the most obvious ones. He used a regular uppercut, which easily sent this Gojo Satoru even higher than he was into the sky. This hero turned out to be incredibly weak compared to the Demon King who came here to deal with him, because he went to sleep immediately after the first blow dealt by the Demon King. After Zion dealt with those who invaded his lands and created chaos here by killing his subordinates, standing in front of his body, he wondered if he was exactly the one who was spoken about in the denunciations. Next, the Demon Lord began to shake this guy so that he would return to consciousness. He continued trying to get this guy to wake up from the knockout, because he had some business and conversation with him. After the Demon Lord calmly dealt with the loser in the Underground Kingdom, the course of events is transferred back to the Hero Academy, where we stopped at an interesting moment. Next, they decide to show us the Duke of Agnes, who is a representative of the most famous family. He made a huge contribution to the development of the Kingdom of Lutain and fencing in general. Looking at the luxurious lands that belong to this duke, we also learn that by teaching warriors his famous art of fencing, he significantly increased the combat power of his state. And the second son of the current duke, whom we have already met, was able to absorb all the talents of his illustrious ancestor. From birth, he was gifted as a swordsman and, as expected, reached great heights in this matter. A couple of moments after the second son of this duke came to his senses, after being knocked out by our main character, he instantly jumped back to assess the situation. Having regained consciousness and found himself at a safe distance, he loudly asked the question, what idiot just dared to attack him and also knock him out right on the street from behind? But after a couple of moments, the expression on this guy's face instantly changed. After he looked to the side where he was standing before the light went off in his eyes, he was clearly surprised. After all, looking in that direction, he saw only our main character who was happily communicating with Silver. Holding his hands, she greeted him again and again and asked him how he was doing. This terribly famous swordsman to the whole audience simply could not believe what he saw with his own eyes. He wondered if some girl who suddenly appeared could knock him down and knock him out. Meanwhile, Silver finally asked his first question to the girl. He asked her how she even appeared here. She told him that she, like him, entered the Hero Academy. She asked him if he was surprised. Silver didn't lie, which is why he answered our main character that he was really surprised. But in truth, he was more surprised by the fact that with her appearance, she knocked out a guy popular throughout the district. A couple of moments later, someone suddenly turned to Saren from the side and interrupted her conversation with her new friend Silver. She turned back, puzzled, to understand who called her and why. After our main character turned around, she saw in front of her the same blonde man on whom she landed, knocking him out. He asked her who the hell she was. The girl stood in surprise. But after a couple of moments being very kind, our main character saw a new opportunity to make a new friend, which is why she introduced herself to Levi, saying that her name is Saren. However, Levick, interrupting her, took her by the cape and said that no one needs her name. He asks her who she is to come out of nowhere and send him to bed without his knowledge. The girl was surprised. After a couple of moments, Saren still realized that she had hit him with her landing. After she realized this, she immediately understood why this guy was angry and began to apologize. Saren apologized, saying that she didn't notice him at all, and until Silver pointed out to her that she was standing on his body, she thought that she had crushed some kind of bug or something. Such an apology only hurt the guy more. Our main character was very polite, so she continued to apologize to the guy, but only the episode where she called him a bug that she accidentally crushed continued to spin in his head. A couple of moments after this, Levick turned on killer mode, and turning to one of his friends, asked them what they thought. Did our main character accidentally land straight on him, pushing him? One of his friends began to flex his fists and replied that regardless of whether the girl attacked him by accident or not, she already made a mistake when she attacked the wrong guys. A couple of moments after this guy tried to make an intimidating speech, he turned to Marco and Levick asking them if he was right. But unlike him, they understood the risks and did not rush around with words so much. A couple of moments after this guy didn't hear an answer from his fool, he shook him by the shoulder in order to return him to the real world. But Marco, judging by his look, fell in love with our main character. At the moment when Saren called his friend Levick, he saw in her a real top waifu who was in the top one in beauty among the women of this world, and perhaps even other worlds. He literally flew in space. While they were trying to reboot this guy's head so that he would come back to his senses, Levick, looking to the side, wondered who he was hanging out with, because this retinue clearly did not seriously emphasize his coolness. A couple of moments later, Silver himself came out to defend our main character, who previously could not even say a single word for himself. Standing in front of the girl, he said that it was just a simple accident. Silver continued telling Levick that besides, she apologized so that he could just forget about this incident in response to this attempt from Silver to protect this girl. This blonde just grinned at them from above. A couple of moments after this arrogant blonde stood in front of Silver and asked him since when did he gain enough testosterone to be able to shut him up. In response to this, Silver tried to backtrack, saying that he didn't mean it, while the blonde began to reach for his sword, telling Silver that he thought that he needed to start dealing with him first. But after a couple of moments, it is not clear that another candidate for heroes burst into this party, which could have ended pitifully and stands between the blonde and Silver in order to prevent a skirmish. This girl offers to end this conflict on this note. Meanwhile, these two guys seem to completely forget about their conflict because the new goal of their interest becomes completely different. This girl is no slouch, so he immediately understands how to quickly resolve the conflict between two guys, which is why she tells them that they can't start a fight on the first day. After this method of solving the problem, these two guys move away from the girl and are very embarrassed. They wonder who she even is. The blonde asks if she is in her right mind to interfere between them like that. In response to the question of who she is, she straightens her hair and answers these two guys that she is the one who loves this world. And to be more precise, she is the Apostle Irene, whose name is Chloe de Archabet. However, this girl adds with a cute blink saying that they may not call her so formally. She adds that they can simply address her as Chloe without unnecessary chatter. Meanwhile, the blonde who walked away from this girl after her original attempt to exhaust the conflict understands that if this girl is Chloe Archabet, but this means that she is the daughter of the Vatican in person. Looking at this girl with a very high title, the blonde hooligan wonders what she even forgot in the Hero Academy in this case. Meanwhile, the girl stands with arms folded and smiles. Next, this girl reminds this Silver Levitt crowd and our main character that it looks like the opening ceremony of the Hero Academy is about to begin, which is why they need to hurry up and not be distracted. But this annoying blonde just can't leave everything normal, which is why he turns to Silver and tells him that they continued their conversation a little later where they left off. But this blonde this time does not want to limit himself to just Silver. Looking at our main character, he tells her what he will have and what to talk to her about. Saren is surprised to hear this. After a couple of moments, this crowd of idiots, led by the main idiot blonde, finally leaves. They complain that some morons ruined their mood, and Chloe calls them idiots. Meanwhile, looking at the building of the Academy of Heroes, we see a well-built man who shouts to the whole crowd that they arrived here from all corners of this world, and probably their path was not easy. But this man with the scar continues to say that everyone who is here still must show that they are worthy to stand here. So now he will conduct a small test to determine the level. He reports that everyone can call him Mozart. Meanwhile, our main character looks in surprise at this man telling everyone information. They wonder what test of current abilities we are talking about, and what it is all about. As soon as Saren asks this question, a boar in glasses promptly approaches her and asks her if she really doesn't know such a test that determines the level of a hero. The girl asks who he is. The boar replies that his name is Vigna, and he will explain everything to her. He begins with the fact that the test that determines the level is something like a task, based on the results of which their mentors will get an idea of everyone's level of preparation. Then each hero who passes the test will receive characteristics. The first rank that can be obtained for passing this test is bronze. It is the lowest, but this is also a rank. Immediately after the bronze rank for completing the test that determines the level of heroes, follow the silver rank, which is the second in this hierarchical chain of ranks in this test system. After this, we are approaching the apogee of the result of this test. The penultimate level that a hero can receive during this test is gold. It is already considered quite long and steep. Immediately after this level comes the platinum level, which clearly tells everyone that the hero who has it is clearly not a timid person and can stand up for himself and for other people. But for those who have managed to greatly surpass in strength, those who are at the platinum level, there is also the highest diamond hero class. That is, there are only 5 rank classes in the system, and not 4. Adjusting his glasses, the boar continues that the higher the score, the wider the range of problem situations that the hero can potentially cope with as a hero. The assessment is given by the examiner. The boar continues by saying that the examiner takes into account combat abilities, ingenuity, and the ability to work in a team. And if someone fails the test, they will automatically be kicked out of the academy without having time to join it. After this professional boar finishes his explanation, he asks Saren if she has any questions. The girl replied that they did not initially ask him to tell her anything. In response to this, the boar replied that he simply could not pass by. Moreover, he heard her perplexed question out of the corner of his ear. The girl, in response to this, repeated that she was not even going to ask him anything. Meanwhile, many of the crowd were very surprised after they learned that the leadership of this academy wanted to evaluate their level, because in their opinion they were invited because they met the criteria. The man continued his speech saying that there will be no exceptions, and it doesn't matter whether they were given a good recommendation or they got here as a general selection. Their achievements and titles from now on do not play any role. The guy continued his speech saying that all this is because he will believe in something only after he sees it with his own eyes, which is the reason for doing this test. The man with the scar continued telling the crowd of candidates NXJ if they want to study at the Hero Academy, then here and now they will first have to prove that they are truly worthy of this great opportunity. A couple of moments after this man finished his speech, which concerned the evaluation of all the heroes who were in the crowd, this man, for no reason at all, suddenly jumped high into the air. Immediately after the man jumped, he landed on the ground just like a superhero, leaving a huge crack on the ground and sending it further. The crowd moved away in surprise from this strange attack. After that, the man stood up and, opening his fists, told everyone around him to take with them all the equipment they needed, and they could leave everything else right here on this academy square. Looking at the candidates, this man continues to say that those who cannot show themselves worthy will not have to move in, because they will simply pick up their luggage and go straight home to continue to rest. A couple of moments after this, the course of events is interrupted and we are transported to a location a little further from the previous one. And behind this man, various multicolored portals open. The first task awaits candidates behind the portals. Further, this stern man began to explain that the portals that stand behind him in size 5 lead each of them to a different place. They can come across such locations as a mine, dense forests, meadows, all sorts of valleys, maybe even fortified valleys, and all of them will be created with a special technique of underground labyrinths that will greatly complicate the process of completing the task for true candidates for heroes. After this man had completely finished explaining to these candidates the whole essence of the first task and the portal, he stated that, in other words, as a chance for all of them, a magical dungeon in the form of a labyrinth awaits. This man continued to explain everything to the candidates for heroes literally on his fingers. He continued saying that the first task in the form of magical dungeons will be carried out in teams because it is important for them to work as a team. Looking at the girl with pink hair, the examiner continued saying that assembling a good team, as everyone who is present here knows, is one of the keys to the successful effectiveness of any successful hero. Next, this man with a scar on his eye advised all the candidates in front of him to approach this matter wisely because they have 5 minutes for this entire process, during which time they must gather in groups of 4 people and decide which portal to go to. After a couple of moments, a team immediately appeared on our screen that would interest us most in front of us in the genre of old pixel games was the team of Serene, Silvera, and Chloe. It doesn't take a lot of smarts for these 3 to realize that to create a complete team they need to find one more member, Chloe hoping that it will be someone they get along with. Silver didn't understand since when he was on their team. A couple of moments after Chloe heard this guy's objection, she gently grabbed his face and asked if he wanted to be on this team. Silver replied that they just didn't know anything about each other. In response to this, Chloe replied that the guy was really right, and it was for this reason that this girl said that her name was Chloe, and our main character again said that her name was Serene. After these 3 finally got to know each other fully, they returned to the problem of finding the last member to join their team. Chloe wondered if there were any cute boys here. Meanwhile, Silver, looking at this situation, believed that the end had already come for them because they should have known each other's abilities before uniting to create a smart team and not a random one. Moreover, Silver was sure that in this way they would be able to choose a suitable structure for them, or tactics in the end. He should at least roughly know what strategy he would have to use. But a couple of moments after a small wave of panic, Silver still decided that first he needed to calm down and take a closer look at his new companions with whom he had to go through the dungeon. The guy began the analysis with the help of critical thinking. He understood that Saren has a sword, and she is good in close combat, so in his opinion, it would be best to leave the leadership in their attack to her. After critical analysis with the help of thinking past to Chloe, he realized that she is an apostle of the church, which means that she must possess holy power, so she should be trusted to protect them from the yard. After the guy received this information, he understood that they still had himself. He began to think about who else they needed in order to create the coolest and most balanced Sigma team. A couple of moments later, this young Sherlock Holmes's thoughts are interrupted when he hears a statement from one of his companions that they have just found their 4th member in the team. A couple of moments later, we watched as Chloe, along with our main character, contacted the same Shan who was on the list of candidates. They peacefully met her, and Silver was shocked by this. A couple of moments later, we saw our own team in front of us, which after finding the last team member was fully equipped and finding the last member was the most humorous. Despite the fact that they just finished gathering the team after discussing nothing, Saren thought that they just had to decide which portal they would all enter together. Silver was glad that this girl was at least thinking about something. However, this guy was quickly disappointed because immediately after Saren decided to choose a portal, she simply pointed her finger at the portals and began to count a little count in order to decide where to go. A couple of moments after our main character stopped counting, her choice settled on a blood-red portal, which, judging by its appearance, looked the most dangerous. But Chloe, standing behind, was happy with everything. Silver, looking at all this from the side, began to cry because after he saw how our main character chose the portal, he realized that it was definitely the end, and now nothing would help them. A couple of moments later, we watched as the examiner, who had just recently been telling everyone everything, watched with interest the team that had gathered around our main character. He was interested in something. Meanwhile, our main character, and in any case Chloe, moved forward filled with complete confidence. They were confident in their victory, and were going to see what they could do with the help of this labyrinth. After this Sigma team enters the portal, they find themselves in a location called the Demon Fortress. Their task is to defeat the lord of this castle, in front of whom they are standing right now. The examiner's voice tells them to give it their all if they want to succeed, and the examiner states that he will be monitoring them throughout the test using a special artifact. After a couple of moments, Silver turned to our main character to ask her if she had any prepared strategy according to which they would carry out their task. In response to this, the girl replied that she really had a plan according to which they would first boom and then invade the fortress, and then find this lord in order to defeat him by completing the task. While our main character continued to say that her plan was to quickly knock this lord altogether, Silver, standing behind her, realized that they had no damn plan. While our main character continued to look at the castle in surprise, Silver's attention was attracted by something else. He turned his attention to a strange river that flowed straight from the fortress into which they needed. A couple of moments after Silver decided to use his critical thinking to understand how to use it, a brilliant idea to implement the plan immediately came to his mind. According to Silver's plan, his squad was supposed to quietly sneak into the fortress through this channel without making too much noise, and then quietly find and kill the lord with a minimum number of problems. Silver, having announced his plan in his thoughts, was sure that this plan was much better than the plan of our main heroine, who was going to just rush in and do everything using only her brute force. A couple of moments after this, Silver turned to his team with a joyful face to tell them the good news of the emergence of an ingenious plan to complete this task without noise. But as soon as this guy looked at his masterpiece team, he saw Han, who was sleeping in a dream, and the complete absence of our main character, whose absence Chloe had just noticed. After Silver asked his team where Saren had gone so quickly, only Chloe could answer him because Han was sleeping. Chloe pointed her finger towards the castle. What he saw clearly surprised him very much. Looking at our main character, we understand that she acted on the principle that a smart person will not go up a mountain, but a smart person will jump over a mountain, which is why Siren, as if nothing had happened, made a jump from the height of a high-rise building. After this girl gained an equally incredible height with her incredible jump, she took her huge sword to make an amazing attack on these monsters or the castle. The demons who stood below in complete bewilderment simply could not believe their eyes. Besides the fact that F and the girl approached them and immediately jumped, she was clearly planning something while in the air. Returning to the sky to our main character, we saw how she was already starting to fly down. It was already clear that she decided to simply make the most powerful attack in her arsenal from a great height. At this moment, the most shocked person was not one of the demons, but Silver, who, standing somewhere far away, could not believe that this girl really thought that she could break through the castle gates with a sword because it was impossible. But Silver didn't even have time to say this phrase before our main character landed after her incredible jump down. She delivered a blow of colossal power that made this gate break. From that powerful blow, the reaction of her team was simply priceless. Silver, who came up with another plan, had his jaw dropped, Chloe clapped our main character, and Han just poked her head in after that. After Saren landed down on her feet, she looked at her team with a smile and told them that now, after the boom, the path is open so they can move forward for the mission. But this girl completely forgot that inside this castle, there was just a huge number of different monsters of different ranks. Silver shouted to her to turn back as quickly as possible. After the girl, following the cry of her ally, turned around, she saw a huge number of monsters that were moving straight towards our main character, but instead of running away, she took a fighting stance. But even our main character, who had incredible strength, was very surprised after she saw a huge number of monsters, because in her first life she saw such a huge number of monsters in one place. At that moment, Silver realized that he had just seen how strong Saren was, but these monsters that came out of the castle were too many for just one person to handle. However, Silver's conclusion that only the main character would deal with the monsters was too hasty because Chloe, standing behind him, was already ready to rush into battle because she had begun to collect her hair. Looking at Silver, Chloe winked at him and told him that most likely now it was her turn to come out, as she believed she was ready to break into a huge number of monsters to help Serene. Hearing this question, Silver immediately answered Miss Chloe that it was indeed her turn. He also added that he thought it was time for her to use her magic. However, then what Silver saw greatly surprised him because instead of turning to holy magic, this girl took out damn brass knuckles, thereby switching to melee combat despite the magic. While the guy's jaw continued to hang, this girl asked him why he had everything worked out with his miss. He reminded him that she had already told him that he could just call her Chloe. A couple of moments after this, Chloe ran towards the battle in which our main character had already begun to deal with a huge number of enemies. She also told Silver not to worry because she would be back soon. Meanwhile, the demons who stood inside the castle simply could not believe that an ordinary person managed to break their gates. They were also worried about who would now pay compensation for this. After a couple of moments, our main character realized that she was alone on the battlefield, and the demons around her finally decided to surround her for a more effective rebuff. She wondered what she should do in this situation. Next, the girl realized that in this case she needed to think about it. Immediately after this girl made a quick dash towards one of the demons and realized that in this case she needed a powerful sweeping attack in the form of a tornado. It was precisely this moment later that this girl used. She began to make sweeping attacks with a huge range with her huge sword that swept away all the opponents around. She called that unusually powerful technique a blow from light cavalry. The monsters couldn't believe it because the girl called such a powerful attack only light cavalry. Meanwhile, the girl continued the fight. A couple of moments later, the voice of one of her allies again reached our main character. She was again asked to turn back as quickly as possible because behind her was one of the opponents whom she had missed. This girl heard this warning just in time because when she turned at the last moment, she saw a huge demon who was going to finish her off with a blow from the back, just like a rat. After the demon shouted to this girl that this time she was caught, the girl realized that at that moment she would not have time to do anything because of her inexperience in battles. She simply closed her eyes. But Chloe managed to come to her aid, who made a powerful attack on this demon behind her. She told this monster before she killed him that such a phrase should be said only after he really catches someone. At this moment, our main character was in shock. Apparently, she also thought that Chloe was just a magician who possessed holy magic, but she saw how he handled melee weapons. After this girl literally saved the fat of our main character, she winked at her and happily told her that help had arrived and smiled sweetly at her, supporting her. After our main character realized that she was not alone on the battlefield, she was immediately filled with confidence, and it was clear from her face that she was ready to return to a fierce battle. After some time and the joint efforts of our main character and Chloe, there was absolutely nothing left of these demons, because the garrison of this castle was completely defeated by these two Sigma mommies.